president and also the council delegates. So I hope to get all the 24. It's kind of interesting because we have 16 candidates and 24 seats, but I think there's pretty much like anywhere from 2 to well, actually one. I know there's a guy that's just unopposed, and so, but some of them have over 4. But yeah, so the whole idea. One of the reasons why that I feel it important that we need to also interview the council delegates, because I've been involved with the Navajo Nation government from the outside, on the periphery. Well, I shouldn't say the outside, because I was hired by the Navajo Nation government for the past 40 years and working with nearly every president all the way back to Chairman Peter MacDonald. So I had to know the ins and outs of all the Navajo Nation government. And I knew the 28, 28. I knew the 88 when they were first established. Nelson Gorman was the first Speaker of the House or of Council. So I've known every council delegate of the 88 for the past, as long as they were in, I think for a period of 4 years. So I know what they've done. I know how things are. So primarily, the reason why I think it's important for these council delegates candidate need to be interviewed is, what is their knowledge about the Navajo Nation Council / history / their job description, and how they're going to apply that knowledge to if they were to be elected. Because there's going to be obviously a correlation between the Navajo Nation president and also the council delegates. And each of them are going to have to work with each other. So I want these council delegate candidates to go on record now so that we will see, and the constituents, because what we hear on Facebook and social media coming from people outside of my own council delegate area, once they get to Window Rock, it not only affects their own Navajo, their own council area, but now they're going to be casting their vote to pass legislations for the rest of the Navajo Nation Council. So it's important. So that's why I'll be doing these. And there's a lot of interest. A lot of people are coming forward. They want to be interviewed. They want to share their platform. And so today we have a 2026, obviously, the Navajo Nation Council delegate seat, the candidate, and his name is Mikhail Ganadonegro. And he is going to be running for Casamero Lake, Littlewater, Baca-Prewitt, Alamo, and Tohajiilee. Welcome, Mr. Ganadonegro. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Okay. Yate she Mikhail Ganadonegro nisha. Ashin Shlon la Kaitana Bush's chain. Chisha Dasha Yani Dashanella. Shama ya Beatrice Ganadonegro alia. Dosha Michael Ganadonegro alia. Nala son Lucinda Ganadonegro alia. Dosha Nala T Kenneth Ganadonegro alia. Adosha Masana the late Ada Herrera William de Adosha Che the late James Warosi and de Ado Ayese Twojle dot iso desha Kehahut Shama isto denaga dosha Twojle denaga Nadina Shkla Shanachai Thono Atem Community College de a Digi liberal arts do social epa inishtka. Adoshan American Indian do Alaskan Natives Commissioner, City of Albuquerque, ba di sakat tsita, do the University of New Mexico de Inchtka de Edige Native American Studies, Native Nation Building, do American Law and Policy Ba Inchtka de. Okay, greetings everyone. My name is Mikhail Ganadonegro. I am Salt people born for the Mexican people clan. My maternal grandparents are the Chiricahua Apache, and my paternal grandparents are the Towering House people. I am 25 years old. I believe I'm the youngest candidate running in this candidate race throughout the Navajo Nation. My parents are Michael and Beatrice Ganadonegro. My paternal grandparents are Kenneth and Lucinda Ganadonegro, and my maternal grandparents are the late Ada Herrera and James Worrow Sr. I do come from both communities of Tohajiilee and Alamo, and I currently go to school at Tono Autumn Community College. I am studying there for my liberal arts and social working. I went to the University of New Mexico, where I completed halfway through the program in Native American Studies on Native Nation building, and also on Native American law that they offer through Native American Studies program at UNM.
Okay, well, that's who you are now. Welcome, Mikhail, those listeners from Facebook and YouTube. I welcome you again to another segment of Politics on a Navajo Nation. So I'm going to ask the candidate to give us their platform, what they're going to be doing if they were to be elected for the next 4 years.
Okay, so my platform really comes from what I see, what I hear every day in my community. I currently live in Tohajiilee, also known as Canancito Band of Navajos. I am running because I'm tired, from watching our families wait for years for basic things, water lines, homes, safe roads, and I know we can do better. The reason why I'm saying why I know we can do better is because I've reached out to my current delegate. I left emails, I left phone calls, I never got a response. I left a chain of emails ever since they first got in 2023, and I never received anything back. And my goal is simple, it is to make the government work the way our people expect it to work. Right now we're in a hole, and we're trying to find solutions, and we're at where we're at right now. And first, I want to strengthen our chapters. I've been to the chapters, and I've seen what we lack. I've seen that we lack customer service. I've seen that we lacked, training opportunities that our CSCs, our chapter service coordinators, could use. And I feel like, like, to strengthen that, if elected, I want to push for training. I want to, get them in a certificate program for customer service, for project management, and just to be there for the people. And I believe in decision. I believe in decisions should be made closer to home, where people actually understand the needs. As a delegate, I push to give our chapters more authority and clearer access to funding, which we did. My two communities of Alamo and Tohajiilee recently did, where when we receive funding, it goes directly to our community of having to go up to Winderock, go through the process where the funding, gets stalled up in Winderock. And I will be upfront with the community about how money is used and where projects stand. I know that communication within, my chapter's area of district, the new reapportionment, we're lacking that. A lot of our community members are asking how far along the projects are, and we've been barely getting updates. And then especially with the water that Tohajiilee is getting, I believe there was only like 3.5 miles of water pipeline that was barely laid down into the ground, and we still have a couple more miles to go, about 4 more miles to go. And in Alamo, they're building a new health clinic, and no one understood, no one knew, the community members weren't aware. They were a bit lost as well. And speaking to the community members, touching base with them on one-on-one, it it really showed that there was no community, anybody. They even explained that there's communication between elected tribal leaders, like our chapter president, their vice president, and the Club C members, the committees, the land commissioners, and all that. There was no communication. You can see it. You can see the tension. You can see, you can see it. Our community members are crying out for help. Like I said, we reached out to our delegate and we never get a response. And then infrastructure is another priority for me because it affects everything: health, education, jobs. I want every family to have clean water, reliable roads, electricity, and internet. To me, that's not just policy, it's dignity. I'll work aggressively to secure funding and make sure it goes where it's actually needed, not just where it's politically convenient. At the same time, I want to support local workers, our local farmers, our ranchers, our community members who own cattle, that they do that for a living, and small businesses, so more of our own economic growth stays here with us. We have a lot of indigenous, Navajo people who have like their beading stand, their silversmithing, their own like sewing business that they do. They make the traditional three-tier dress, the Navajo shirts. But the heart of my platform is our people's well-being. I care deeply about access to healthcare, especially mental health and elder services. I want our youth to have stronger support systems, better opportunity, and education that respects who they are as Dene. Our language and culture are our strength, and I believe they should guide our decisions, including how we protect our land and water. With that, I grew up on the reservation. I grew up with a mom and dad. I grew up with my grandma as well, and I was always reminded about who I was as a Dene person, a Dene child, and I give high praises to my two Navajo teachers, Geraldine Piasso and Cecilia, and they, growing up, it was hard for me to learn Navajo because I was bullied for it. When I tried to speak it, I was always made fun of because I mispronounced some words, and it sticks with you. It's a little trauma that sticks with you. But with them, they I had classes with them while I was in school, from elementary to middle school to high school, and they made sure we were a part of it. Rug weaving, butchering, touring a hogan, understanding where we came from when we did the Navajo Long Walk, and how we formed our band of Navajos, the Alamo and the Tohajiilee satellite reservations. And that's what pushes me. That is what strengthens my aspect to be a candidate and a council delegate, also as a legislator. Finally, I want to bring back trust into leadership. I know we lack a lot of trust, we lack a lot of transparency, and a lot of pointing fingers goes on. And no one's there to actually take the blame. Everyone's saying, like, it's your fault, it's so-and-so's fault. So if I'm elected, I'll communicate openly, hold regular community meetings, and make sure people know exactly how I'm voting and why. I'm accountable to the people, not to outside influence. I'm not doing it for popularity. I know I've been backlash on a few of my posts saying I'm doing it for popularity and money, which I'm not. I'm there for the people, and I'll keep that promise. I'm not just going to get elected and disappear. And I always explain that to them. I've been saying, and I even got a recent comment on Facebook saying that I'm part of the current administration. And I said, I have no ties to the current administration. I don't know who they are. I don't know who the workers are. I know about our president. In short, my platform is personal because these issues affect not only my family, but my neighbors, and my community, and all across Navajo Nation. And I'm running to make sure our Navajo Nation moves forward in a way that honors our traditions, strengthens our sovereignty, and makes life better for the next generation. Because I am the next generation. A new leadership needs to come in. We've had recycled leaders for so long that nothing has been done. And my current, opponents are always saying like, I have 20 years of plus experience. I've been in this position before. Yes, you've been in that position before, but what have you done? What has been done? Was there results? And that's my current platform. This is who I am. This is what I go by, my
Yeah,
experience.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, welcome those that are joining us on Facebook and YouTube. You're listening to Politics on the Navajo Nation with Cal Nez, and we have a candidate for the Navajo Nation Council, and his name is Mikhail Ganadonegro. Um, so obviously, we're talking about the concepts of what these council candidates, council delegate candidates, are going to do. So I jotted some notes down when you were talking about your platform. Um, I want to get into some specifics. Um, if you were elected, knowing that there's been a continued conflict between the executive branch and the legislative branch, if you become a council delegate, how would you help with that?
Thank you for that question. So, how I will help with that, I want to make sure there's communication. There's not just one side. It's not just going to be one-sided. I want to, formally get together, not take one side. I want to be transparent. I want to hear both sides. I want to understand why there's tension. And I want there to be a solution because, we're public servants. Our people are the bosses. We're not, yes, we get the final say on these legislations, on our votes and stuff, but our people are our bosses. We work for the people. We put ourselves in these positions for the people. And it's a shame that the tension's going on. And with me being in there, I want to, integrate that. I want us to work together to, settle things for our people. I want there to be accountability with certain things that goes on as well.
Okay, so now I appreciate your reply. It's easy to say I want to open these doors up so that there's accountability, there's communication. Like, you're only going to be one of 24 council delegates.
Yes.
How are you going to contribute your know-how to be able to resolve that tension?
I will work with my colleagues. I will, talk with them. I want to have work sessions. I know they have work sessions. I want to host our own meetings. Within our government, we have the Baca-Prewitt committee meetings. We have our own standing committee meetings, and I want I want us to come together. We have to be the solution because we're there. We're the ones who vote on. We have the last say on legislations, on what goes on for our Navajo Nation government, and I want to work with each other. Work with my colleagues, even if some of us don't agree on certain things. We have to be neutral. We can't just say like my way is the perfect way, so we're gonna go with my way. We have to be open minded. We have to be open to what others have.
Okay. Now, as far as the Navigation Council, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chapters. The distance between these locations are going to be extremely. I mean, they're not right next to each other.
Yeah.
They're scattered.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of the Navajo Nation, there is a jurisdiction because I believe Rama and Tohajiilee, they are like very remote.
Yes.
And they've always said in a lot of ways that they kind of push their own sovereignty. I don't know which one of these chapters, maybe I missed the point, but which one of these chapters you're a part of? Is it Tohajiilee or Alamo?
I grew up in Alamo, but now I currently reside in Tohajiilee with family.
Okay. So yeah. So having said that, how are you going to navigate through when you're talking about unity? You're bringing about training and funding, Alamo Healthcare, all of those. How's that inclusion going to happen under your clock?
Well, under my clock, you got to check in. You got to check in with these communities. You can't just leave any out, because then you're not gonna get the support you need. You're not gonna see what each community lacks. If you're just worried about one community, not even checking on the others, the people are gonna be upset with you. And you got to be there for the people. It's not for yourself. It's not for self. It's not for self-sufficiency. It's for the people. And I know I'll be able to make the time to go, because this is going to be my full-time job. It's going to be my full responsibility to travel to these communities and meet with the leadership, meet with everyone, have our monthly meetings with each other. And I've traveled before. I feel like our communities aren't even that far apart, from Casamero Lake to Littlewater to Baca-Prewitt to Thoreau to Alamo and Tohajiilee. And when people tell me, how are you going to do it? Why it's far apart. They're so scattered apart. It's not that far apart. They're all in New Mexico. You make the time to go. You have to go. You're there for the people. You're working for the people, like you said. And I always relate it to, I lived in Salem, Oregon, and I would travel to Seattle, Washington at times, and that's far. And that was more like a 24-hour drive I would take from New Mexico back up to the coast of the Pacific Northwest. And that's a long drive. That's what I understand as far. But our community, they're right next to each other. There's a dirt road I could take between Alamo and Tohajiilee, that known as the road to nowhere. And I'm very confident I'll be there for the people. I know I'll make
Okay.
it go.
Okay. I want to go back to. I want to kind of explore this. Your knowledge about the Navajo Nation government, because these transitional periods are very, very important, because the status of why that I feel, and this is my personal opinion, and I would ask anybody who has a different opinion to share it with me. But I know, because I've seen it, I've witnessed this entire transition from the chairmanship to the current 3-branch government. And why that I think this is important, because a lot of these are going to be decision making that you're going to be right in the middle of. which one of the titles specifically addresses the three-branch government? Navajo Nation titles.
The Navajo Nation titles. From my understanding, I feel like it's the speaker. I like this.
Well, no. I'm not talking about the title as in a person's job description. I'm talking about there's an X amount of Navajo Nation titles or laws.
Yeah.
Which one of those specifically address? You can't be Googling this now.
I'm not Googling.
Instant questions, instant answers. So, yeah, which one of the title addresses the separation of government?
The titles, I would say, with the president. The president, addresses all the issues and oversees, each branch.
What's Title II about?
Title II, I have not gotten into. Like I said, I'm new. I'm coming into this, and I'm doing my research as much as I can. I started learning about the early years from the 1923 all the way to 1988, when the first Navajo Nation Council delegates was first introduced, the formation, the expansion, the structure of it, all the way to the government reform and expansion from 1989 to 2010, and as well as the modern day council from 2011 to present of how what we're going into now.
And do you currently agree with the 24 council delegates versus 88?
I don't agree with the 24. I feel like that's a lot. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be challenging because this is the first time that it's being introduced with the reapportionment. Each delegate getting 6 communities, and I want to understand where that came from. My delegate wasn't there to vote against it, so we didn't get the correct information on why this took place. And from my understanding and watching, listening in on the councils and the committee meetings, it was, I guess, for funding. From my understanding, they wanted to downsize the delegates to, so like they said, certain delegates get paid. Not certain delegates get paid, but the delegates, the 24 now are the only ones that are going to get paid. They want to downsize it, so that's why. From my understanding, I understood it as that's the reason why they want to downsize up to 24 instead of the full delegates that was by 88 delegates.
Okay. Well, when I ask you about the titles, like Title I talks about the fundamental laws, it's kind of like our little constitution. I'm not saying it is. It's just kind of like rules and regulation that covers all the way land, Title II about separation of power and so forth and so forth. And so when you talk about, about the transition of the power at the crossroads of 1988 to 1989 slash the recent downsizing of 24. To be honest with you, I mean, July, the council delegates, the 24 of them, why I went from 88 to 24 was specifically about what I talked about at the beginning, which was the tension between the Navajo Nation president and the council. That's why it went from 88 down to 24. It was because of that tug of war, who has more power. So, as far as the current status of the government, who do you believe has more power within the government?
My understanding is the Navajo Nation Council. They have the last say. the speaker, like how she's proven, to file against the president. Because it's crazy how our government is going off of old legislations or passed for 50 years ago for stuff that happened then. And these new legislations that are coming in is not really interpreted because of how old our laws are. And yes, it's good to go by our fundamental laws, our kinship, and the laws that was passed in the beginning that shapes our government. But then we're here now. But with what's going on, we've seen how our president is using these laws to veto a lot of funding from departments. And it does affect everyone. It does affect the operations. And even like this recent Navigatia session that they had, they were talking about the funding that he requested again. So I understand that, yes, when legislations are going to be signed, it does go to the president. He signs off on it, whether he wants to veto it or he wants to sign it into law. But then again, as a council, I feel council delegates have more of the power because they talk it over. They understand what laws it applies to,
Right.
how implement it into our
Yeah.
what it's going to affect on. And
Okay.
there's a process to it. You don't just say like, oh, I'm going to create this law. You have to gather your resources. You take it to the correct committee it needs to go to, like budget or finance, HESI, law and order, and it goes through there. Then they decide like whether it's going to be added to the agenda or not, or whether if it's lacking budget forms or resources. And then finally it gets moved on into our our council sessions. And then from there, if they still can't make a decision on it, then it gets referred back to Navigatia where they talk it over again. And then, I feel like the delegates, or my understanding is that the delegates have more of the power because they're the ones who are gathering the resources. They're the one getting the information to how it will affect our government. And then when they finally come to an agreement, or whether they want to toss it out or pull it back out, and where they don't want to move forward with it, then when it goes over to the president's office, the OPVP office, then it gets signed into law there.
Right. Maybe because it eventually goes back to the council, and the council majority of the time they do an override.
Yes.
So having said that, I want to just ask, who are you running against?
I am currently running against Norman Begay of Tohajiilee as well.
So tell me who the incumbents are.
So incumbents are Norman Begay for my district, and or you want me to say all of them for the?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Because you got to know who your opponents are, right?
Yeah. So my opponents is Norman Begay, who's incumbent currently, and Ira Vandiver, Hushkiki. Both Ira and Hushkiki are from Baca-Prewitt, and I have Earl Apachito, who is from Alamo, and myself, who is a registered voter with Tohajiilee.
Okay. Now, of those 5 chapters, which one of them are certified and which one are not certified?
I looked into that, and I haven't seen any of them that are not certified yet. I know from my community, when I was looking into the certifications of my chapter of Tohajiilee, is they recently talked about going under BIA. But when they were discussing that, when they spoke with council told them that they had to pay back whatever they assisted us with, whatever funding we got from the Window government, that my community had to pay back, and then we can go and branch off and be our own with BIA. So that's my understanding, and I know we're not certified yet. But the others I'm looking into, I have meetings with some of their chapter leaders to get more understanding of where they stand, and share what they want to share with me.
So, do you know what the difference between certified and uncertified means?
Um, Certified, I know it's on like being your own, overlooking your own chapter, like having the full power to your funding. If that's what I understood from it. But if not, you can correct me.
Well, everybody gets funded one
Yeah,
way or another,
yes.
but there is a difference.
Um, like the funding comes directly to us. That's what I understood it as. But if not, like I said, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, you're supposed to know this, not me. I'm just the host.
Yeah.
So you're the candidate and you want to win. So
Yeah.
because a lot of these basic knowledge is something that everybody must have, and
Yeah.
knowing the history of what this job entails. So let's move on to if you were elected with your expertise, which one of the standing committee do you feel like you're best, uh, do you want to serve on?
With that, I feel very confident in law and order because I I studied it. I studied about policy making from filing legal action, building a tribal coalition, and with my expertise of also sitting on a committee board with the city of Albuquerque and holding the as a governmental representative through the city of Albuquerque, I that interests me in that area.
Hmm. Okay. Now let's transition over to a topic that I'm very, very passionate about because I'm going to ask all these council delegates. I'm asking all the presidential candidates. And I was a candidate in 2014. And excuse me, my primary focus, which is about my platform, was about business. I believe empowering the Navajo people. And there's a certain step-by-step things that needs to happen. I said it then, I'm still saying it today. It hasn't happened yet because majority of these people who are running and sitting in these elected positions don't have any business experience, never studied business. They've only been a governmental employee. And there's a huge difference, a huge difference. If you have right now the council delegates, oh, it's not whole ka, Winter Le Joe, if you take a pie, that's metaphorically speaking, the Navajo Nation takes pride in the fact that they've sliced this thing up almost to the point of passing out crumbs from that one pie. I don't think that that's anyone having expertise. That's basic bookkeeping. It's what grandma, what your mom, our wives, sisters. That's what we do at home. We balance the checkbook. We make the dollars stretch. My expectation of these elected leaders, if you're running, what is your expertise that is going to harness? Because somewhere down the road, your entire nomination council is going to be faced with this. That is economic development, something we talked about in 2014 and all the way back to 1986. We've talked about it. The same topics are being talked about. How are you going to harness this final piece of the puzzle to be able to transition from always looking for handouts to being prosperous? What is your expertise?
So my expertise would be, building strong relationships and, building strong relationships with other agencies, within our government. Um, and the reason why I say my expertise is with building stronger relationships and, is as a federal governmental representative with the American Indians and Alaska Natives, I established regular communications between everyone. I made great connections with people that were in state level offices, tribal offices, and um, I started, looking for opportunities for our government. And it wasn't just, just what I wanted for myself. It's what I wanted from, the communities. And I was successful because I managed to help, other Navajos who live within the city of Albuquerque. I I got them this funding where it paid 3 months ahead of their rent. And during COVID, I was able to secure that funding for them, and they were very grateful for it. And that's my expertise, was building a strong relationship with state level individuals, tribal individuals, and that was my success. And I'm very proud of that because the funding that I secured for them, they were very happy that they didn't get evicted out
Hmm.
of they didn't get
Yeah,
evicted out of their apartments, and they didn't have to pawn nothing. This helped them enough to
right.
for the months that were coming up.
What is your what do you think economic development is to you?
Economic development to me, I would say, is getting our people, getting our government in an area where they're saying we live in a third world country. We don't. We have phone services now. We have Wi-Fi's, but still, I like economic development. I feel like we still have more to build because we have chapters that are old. We have senior centers that are being condemned because of how unsafe or the buildings are cracking, and you know um, we need to understand like what we can do with our land, what we can do to rebuild this, to make it better, to better upgrade these buildings for our people and our communities as well.
If if you were serving right now, should there be another situation in the future? You know, that missing $24 million is a big topic. What happened to it? Everybody's looking around, and it's basically the construct of how that whole business venture happened. How would you vet these outside entities, and what type of business status would you vote for or against if you were elected?
If I were elected, I want to bring in more, more, I guess, like legal action, getting the clear data of what took place, what was requested, everything, gather all of my resources as much as I can. And I understand that. I know what the government went through because my community of Alamo, as a high school student, I was up in Window Rock advocating for my school with other parents. When our school was stolen over $10,000 for an individual who came from the Navajo Nation, I'm not going to mention names, that this individual came to our community, started taking money, started doing so much where our school was getting ready to shut down. And it was my junior year of high school. And as young as I was up in Window Rock with the Department of Education, listening in on these meetings. We held a recall committee meeting. I was there. I got to witness everything firsthand, and it was successful. We got the correct signatures we needed. We were able to push through it. We got white collar crimes involved, and we were able to boot that individual out. And I know the steps we need to take to get this answers. It's not my first time. I understand coming from there as well. So I know, like, I know the advocacy that needs to take place.
Right.
But
My question leans more towards not what has happened. I'm asking you if there should ever be another future where the president or even the council, there's outside entities. Like in this case, there was a man by the name of Robert Worsley, who, in my opinion, brought this idea to the Navajo Nation government. Navajo Nation government went for it, and there was some basic business ideology, basic business that was not completed. So my question is that this company was either going to be a for-profit business working with a nonprofit organization. There's going to be an LLC categories, and then we have a third entity that's involved, which was that architect who happens to be a Navajo woman. There was different categories of business. If you were in the council, which one of those would you recommend for the Navajo Nation government? Which one of those business organizations, how they're constructed, would you support or not support?
that is a tough one. Um, I never really thought about that part. It was a great question. And the way you explained it, um, I'm not too sure. I would answer that for you.
Okay. Do you know what Navajo Business Opportunity Act is?
It was not really. I haven't got to that part yet. Like I said, I'm still going through the communities.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate your time. Um, I'll give you 5 minutes for you to make your closing statement. And so, and again, thank you for all of you Facebook listeners, YouTube listeners. I ask you to share and to join Politics on the Navajo Nation. You're welcome to also click and do a friend. Uh, we have been here for a long time um, doing this on Facebook and doing social media. So uh, I think and I urge all candidates, whether they're for president or for the council, urge you to come online. And this young man here, um, you got to give it to him. You know, he's here. Whereas I've reached out to a lot of the presidential candidates. Da no cheda tse, hala da oh da no te, ako koroya da it ilkit. This presidential race, this council delegate race is not about you personally. Again, just like this young man said, you're going to be a public servant. You're not going to be your own boss. If you want to hide certain things about your life, well, that's not my problem. It's your life. And if you want to hide that, maybe that's why. I don't know why that you guys aren't replying, but I'm impressed with this young man here. He came to the table, and this gets him fine tuned as he moves forward. So it's not a matter of we all are going to teach each other and allow the Navajo people to make that final selection. So 5 minutes, Mr. Ganadonegro.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for Calnez for inviting me. It did take some time. I was out in the communities as well. I was hanging up some campaign signs and media, and I was attending my niece's promotion. So it did take a while to meet with you. I'm sorry about that. But like I said, I'm young. I'm the youngest candidate running within this council delegate race. I do have experience. I do had public service history, and if you guys want to share stuff with me from these communities listed of Casamero Lake, Littlewater, Baca-Prewitt, Alamo, Tohajiilee, and Theru, I'm open. My account is open. You can always call me to my phone number or email me or text me. And they're all listed on my political candidate page. I believe I didn't add my phone number, but if you want my phone number, it is going to be 971-428-9803. It is an Oregon number because I did live in Oregon about 4 years ago. I was out there with the Confederate tribes of the Grand Ron. I was learning more about their, when the government took away their, their how would you say, like, their identity. They took away their being federally recognized by the United States, and how they lost their land. And it was a very terrible thing to read on and experience and understand from their elders. And within this governmental, what our government, Navajo Nation government, is going through, I want to be part of that solution. I want to work for our people. I I just want to be there. And if you guys want to share some stuff with me, my account's always open. It may go to spam, but it is going to be open. I'll look for it. Or if you guys want to send me an email, my email is going to be the first letter of my name, my full last name, Ganadonegro3@gmail.com. And like I said, if you guys want to know more about me, if you guys want to understand where I'm from, who I'm related to and whatnot, or what type of connections I have, I'm willing to share it with you. So, like, again, this is me. My name's Mikhail Ganadonegro, and I am a candidate for I believe the reapportionment, also known as the new District 24, number 24 of Casamero Lake, Littlewater, Baca-Prewitt, Theru, Alamo, and Tohajiilee.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, I was looking at what you sent to me. We forgot, or you forgot. I just copied and pasted it. You forgot Theru.
Yeah.
So, Hakushila. So that
right.
will conclude this portion. And again, thank you very much, Mr. Ganado del Negro. That's a long last name, but love it. So, Aroshi Ajo, have a safe trip, or have a safe day, or have a good day, and your safe travel throughout your campaign trail.
Thank you.
Oh, Hagona.